Firstly, thank you for inviting us to your beautiful home today to carry out this interview as part of our Global Insights. For our viewers, could you please just briefly explain how your career has developed from growing up in an apartheid South Africa to being appointed to the House of Lords?
My childhood was spent in Pretoria. Anti-apartheid parents who were jailed, issued with banning orders, which meant they couldn't take part in political activity, and ultimately the harassment and intimidation by the apartheid security police got so intense that they stopped my father working and we had to leave the country for exile in Britain. A few years later, I took up the anti-apartheid cause myself, running onto rugby and cricket pitches, physically stopping whites-only South African teams from playing at Cardiff or Twickenham or Murrayfield. And that led me into a life in politics through an unusual route of militant protest. And I then subsequently became a Labour MP here in the South Wales constituency of Neath, where we are now. And that led, completely unexpectedly to me, to being a government minister for 12 years, including serving 7 years in the Cabinet, Secretary of State for Wales, Secretary of State for Northern Ireland, Leader of the House of Commons, Secretary of State for Work and Pensions, and so on. And in 2015, my party leader asked me to stand down at the election as MP and come into the House of Lords, which is where I am now.
Fantastic, thank you. So, my first question today will simply be, are we going in a direction similar to apartheid with governments in and around the world segregating specific populations, i.e. Trump's Muslim ban, or such as EU migrants being unable to stay after Brexit, where xenophobia is coming from the government, not just the public?
I wouldn't describe it as apartheid. Apartheid was a particular institutionalized form of racism that was almost unique in its intensity. Everything from ensuring that children couldn't play sport together, couldn't attend the same school together, like during my childhood. The fact that you couldn't marry across racial lines, or work together, or study together, or play sport together for your country. You can't describe the xenophobia, the Islamophobia, the anti-Semitism, the racism that is sweeping around the world at the moment as being apartheid. But it is disturbing, and it's a reversal of the progress that has been made by anti-racists fighting often bitter campaigns against racism and fascism. And so now we see, I think, against the background of a neoliberal economic system which is hitting the average person's living standards in advanced economies, they are then looking for scapegoats. You saw that with the Nazis, the rise of the Nazis between the First and Second World Wars. Jews became the scapegoats. It was a time of economic depression. Middle class and working class people were losing out. That is happening now. Not as severely as in pre-Second World War Germany, but severely enough that people's real earnings have been falling. And so in those circumstances of economic insecurity, racism and xenophobia become much more potent and can be exploited by rulers like President Trump or Marine Le Pen in France, others exploiting these prejudices.
Thank you. So my second question then, following on the Brexit topic, are the Labour Party still capable of being the opposition to the Conservatives to ensure that the Prime Minister May negotiates the right deal for the British people during the Brexit negotiations after the triggering of Article 50?
Brexit is a seismic event for Britain. It's the biggest political event in my lifetime, really, in British politics. It's a huge generational issue for all of us. And at this precise time, the Labour Party is weaker than it has been for generations, and is in a parlous state, and is not providing the kind of strong leadership that is needed, not just on behalf of Labour supporters like me, but on behalf of the whole country. You need a strong opposition to hold the government to account in what is looking increasingly like a hard right Brexit, leaving the European Union for a deregulated, low-tax future, which will see austerity get worse and worse, even more than we've had so far. And yet at this time, the Labour Party is nowhere. And that is something that, you know, something has to be done about that for the good of democracy, let alone the good of those who believe, as I do, in Labour values.
Thank you. So lastly then, what advice would you give to the next generation of British politicians who might find themselves watching this video in the future?
People say to me, I'm thinking of a career in politics. My answer always is, politics is a mission. It's not really a career like other careers, important though they may be. It's what you believe in, what you stand for, what you want to do to improve society, and in my view, eradicate injustice, tackle inequality, create fairness for everybody, and economic opportunity for everybody, instead of those at the top, who are now almost more than ever in modern economic history are getting richer and richer while the 90% fall behind. It's those values, and it's a tough world. The higher you get in politics, the tougher it is. The more you're exposed to attacks, not just in the conventional media, but in the social media, often lies, blatant lies and smears and abuse you can do nothing about. You've got to be quite tough, but you've also got to remember what your values are. It's so easy to get sucked into the whole machine of politics and to lose your sense of roots and what your values and your beliefs are under the pressures of politics.
Thank you very much. Cheers.
It's a pleasure.
Thank you.
Thank you.